Salute me, soldier. Now I'm the captain, and all I do is win. Ball for ball, you know I'm the champion. I show you that playtime is over. I let the games begin. Salute me, soldier. Now I'm the captain, and all I do is win. Ball for ball, you know.
Yo, here we are. It's Spittin with Spitter. It's Friday. It's the bonus extended clip edition. We're in the building right now. I got a guest with me today. I hope y'all ready for this one. This one's going to be special. Let me introduce it real fast. Let me pay some dues before I introduce my guest. I want to shout out to the Clockwatch Network, the Clockwatch Podcast. We got the Power P Podcast. That's Monday nights at 9. We got Around the Turnbuckle Saturdays and Sundays. We got the Clockwatch Show is Sundays and Tuesdays at 9. We got Spittin with Spitter Wednesdays at noon, and occasionally we'll give you the extended clip edition, which we're giving you today. And before we get any further, I want to shout out my guy Benjamin Jacks at Lit Graphics, because he be holding me down with all the graphics. But no further ado, let's get this started. Let me introduce my guest, Anthony Hootie Russo, ex-Gambino crew member. What's up, my guy? How you doing?
All right. How you doing?
Man, we here today, man. We here. How are you? You good?
All right, ready to get raw and uncut.
Let's go. Let's go. So let's start at the beginning, bro. How did this start for you?
Oh, I always thought, I mentioned this before, that the street and the life, which is Cosa Nostra, as people call it, they ran hand in hand. I never separated the two. I figured you paid your dues on the streets, you got noticed, you got with a crew, and you came up.
Right.
If I would have taken what I knew now, or even later on I learned, I would have definitely stood on the street side of things instead of getting involved in the life, which I really don't have anything against the life. Just now it's watered down. There's still people in it that I got love for. I can't hate on it. You know what I mean? Like I said, I don't want to be nobody's role model. I don't want nobody to take what I say and use it in a negative way. I'd like for them to use it in a positive way and realize, because some people hit me up and they're like, listen, I'm in the life, I'm in the street, can you give me some pointers? I'm like, listen, I really don't want to push you in that direction, but I'm explaining it to you how I thought of it. And I give them the positive on it. You know what I mean? There is good people in that life, from my standpoint, because I came up in the street, not from Joe College. He's going to think anybody in that life is bad. It's not all bad. It wasn't. Because if I thought it was all bad, I would have not wanted to get involved at all. You know what I mean? Like, I was pushed into it because money. It always starts out with that. If you don't come from the life and you're not born with a silver spoon in your mouth, it's always the money that pushes you in that direction. So I grew up in a well-connected mob area. My family originally came from Brooklyn when they immigrated here from Sicily. And then we moved into a certain park called City Line, which was the borderline of East New York and Queens, which was the Ozone Park area. So it was more closer to East New York than it was any other part of Queens, because people here at Queens, they talk about Long Island City, Astoria, places like that. That was like the other side of the world to us. So that's where it started. I mean, there were social clubs, cafes, everything that you could think of that was in a low-income Italian, you could call it a ghetto area. It wasn't, nobody had money. There was probably no even middle class back then. It was probably lower middle class at the best. Right.
So you started in the streets, right? And you was rocking in the streets for a long time.
Yeah. I learned the drug game first. That was the first. Well, I actually ran football sheets. There used to be these things where you filled out 3 for 3. You get a certain amount of money on $1. It's almost like playing numbers when you bet the daily number, but with football teams. Right. You had college on Saturday and you had the NFL on Sunday. And you'd play it for $3, $5. And they had guys that ran, numbers like that. And I started out at a very young age. I'd be hanging around the club or whatever. And they'd be like, listen, take these tickets up to, the barbershop. Run these over to the pork store. So that was like my first taste of, getting the work in. You know what I mean? I seen what went on. I seen the guys that got distorted. I seen the guys that got shaken down. You knew who the drug dealers were. But I wasn't, that far advanced yet. I was real young at the time. So that was just running around at the time, making 20 here, 10 there, just things like that.
Right.
Then the drug game came.
How'd that happen?
Well, I lived on the borderline. So what happens is you get all the crackheads running from Queens up into Brooklyn to get the drugs because you couldn't buy it at the time in Queens. It was a very strict no drugs policy in that part of Queens, which was like Ozone Park and Howard Beach. But I wasn't involved in the Howard Beach area, so you couldn't get caught. So you had to cross the border to get it. So a lot
Right.
of guys would sit at that block and try to rob the custies, the customers they called them. You know, they used to call them custies. You know, space heads, weed heads, whoever was going into Brooklyn to buy it, you stop at the border, and if you had work, you pushed it on them. So I would go
Right.
into Brooklyn when I first started, and I buy, like, you. First of all, they don't sell mostly. You got to look like a crackhead, or they got to know you. Now I go up there looking like a young white boy with white eyes. They don't light eyes. They're not gonna sell to me. So I wound up getting in with like these Jamaican guys on Warwick and Fulton. I'll never forget, and Fulton and Nichols. And they used to sell dirt weed, but they used to give you a fat bag for $5. So I would take that back into Ozone Park. Yeah, if I would come up with like $50. I go run up there, buy $50 worth of bags. Once these guys finally, knew I was good, and I'd run back into Ozone Park and push them for $10 on the corner. Now nobody knew this young, I was young doing that, and they wouldn't expect it. You know what I mean? And that's how it started.
And so you started pumping little bags of weed, and how'd that progress?
Yeah.
What'd you go do next?
Now I knew guys that were going up to Harlem, 110, Central Park over there, and they were buying mescaline and acid, and they buy a sheet for $100, and
Right.
you get 100 pieces or 100 hits of mescaline. And then you bring them back to Queens and Brooklyn, and on the down low you push them $5 a piece.
Right.
So I wound up getting hooked up with a kid on my block that was going up to Harlem and doing that, but he was bringing them back to Jersey because he was going to Jersey to see his father on the weekends. So, and I started buying mescaline hits, and I progressed from there. And then at like 13, the crack game was roaring and going and killing. I started getting some soft. I go up now to Norwood and Fulton. They had a coke spot. So I was pushing soft. And then I ran into all my friends back then on that side was Spanish or Dominican. Like I really wasn't hanging out with the Italian kids yet. They were there, but they were doing their thing, stolen cars, like whatever they were doing at the time. Stolen cars were big in Ozone Park at the time. I wasn't a car guy like that. So Dominican kid, we took a gram, and he showed me how to cook it. He's like, yo, we can make money. Because now the border goes across like this on Drew Street and turns into Liberty Avenue to 101st Avenue. So now if you catch any of them blocks going up all the way to Jamaica Avenue to the Conduit, there's crackheads crossing the borders. So you go to any, if someone runs you off a corner at 13 from selling on, because they want the customers to come up to their spots. These guys are big time drug dealers, so they want to know who's taking their customers. So we'd run up the whole border and we'd stop right there and we push a gram, but cook, called it hard back then. And that's how I started. A gram became an 8-ball, 8-ball became an ounce. And before you knew it, there's people that want soft because now you're moving and people heard you got hard. And they can't go into Brooklyn and get it. Nobody will sell to them. So you're going up there and you're grabbing it. And then it progressed from there. And then you get a Dominican connect and that you're off from there. Before I was 18, half the keys are coming, learning how to cook. I mean, listen, I learned how to cook with ammonia. I learned how to cook in a microwave. There's some crazy shit that listen to me. These guys were smoking back then. You know why they're fucked up now. There's some crazy chemicals up in that shit. And that's how it started.
Right. So let's talk about you being 19 years old and your trip to Mexico.
Yeah, that was a little crazy on my part because I'm thinking now at this time I'm already in. At this time I already know, like, the neighborhood wise guys, who's getting straightened out. I'm talking to wise guys. I'm in sit downs over beefs with other kids that were in crew members at this time. So I'm like, who ain't gonna fuck with us? You know what I'm saying? We got it. We are the guys. This is what you're thinking at 19. So I get into California. And my boy gets me over the border into Mexico. Now, I didn't realize how bad Juarez was. Juarez, the cops don't even go into Juarez. And this is what? 97, 98. Pablo only got killed maybe a few years before that. You know what I mean? And everything was coming through Mexico. So I was going into Juarez. I had a kid with me. He happened to be a king at the time. He was a Latin king. And I had 50,000 stuffed in my underwear from earning. So I'm like, I'm getting something. I'm getting a connect or I'm coming back with something. So we get into there and we're going through Juarez. We wind up getting hoodwinked by these guys in like a local bar. And they were telling us, listen, you just don't want to go into there. It's no good. Even though I was with a Hispanic kid. I got light hair, light eyes. There's no way I could pass for it. I didn't know a word of Spanish.
Right.
So they wind up bringing us to this farmer, and they try selling us weed. This guy Fernando, this guy was a dynamite guy. He was an old timer, and I kind of think he had connects with the Cali cartel because he kind of broke the game down to me a little bit. And we were there for about 2 days. And by the end of the second day, he finally loosened up and started telling me. He was like, listen, you're not for this game. He's like, we're pushing hundreds of keys over the border, thousands of keys. I wasn't, like I said, I was 19. It was stupid. You know what I mean? And he schooled me a little bit. He told me a little bit about it. And he was kind of pushing towards the Cali cartel. I met a Sicario. He had a Sicario with him. The guy was ice cold. You could feel the bodies on this guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the whole trip was just insane. So what I wind up doing is I wound up getting 3 keys for 50,000. He was like, listen, now it's your problem getting it back. Now I had a weed connect in Arizona that used to call it dirt. And you always say, we got Arizona. You always knew they had dirt. So this guy was pushing a lot of dirt at the time. And he happened to wind up becoming a big time jeweler, this kid. But that was his game. So he wound up getting me. I had wind up going across Mexico and coming across the Arizona border. Just walked right across with 3 kilos stuffed in my pants. I didn't even want my man that was with me to even get. I made sure he didn't have nothing on him. He just was there with me, having my back, Right. And I came over with them, and that was probably like the biggest come up I ever had because back then, keys were like 40,000 a piece, and that was even if they were good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think the most I ever got cooked up was like maybe a half a cake. Never did. I never really cooked. And you cook a half a cake. I mean, the profit's supposed to be like 60,000. But you knew crackheads. They never, people. You just look at a bag of coke. You kind of knew it was a gram. You could have even made more money on that because they're buying it no matter what. Whatever you're putting in that vial, guys were selling 2 for $5, and people actually thought they were getting good deals. You know what I mean? Crack was a whole different ball game in the drug game. You can get away with so much and you can make so much, but that's why they enhanced the charges. You know what I mean? You get caught with a kilo of crack, you can do 20 years. You get caught with a kilo of coke, you might do 4. You know what I mean? Like they really, really enhanced them charges. So that's how it worked out.
Let's go back. Or I got a quick. Somebody just chimed in with a comment, and was it hard to stop selling drugs when you joined the Gambinos, or did you still sell against the rules?
For a while, I didn't. I wasn't that it was against the rules. They were trying to show me that we were going to make drug money without selling drugs. So I said, all right, let me give it a chance. I went from 1 month. I can never forget it. It was in October. And I was doing pharmaceuticals, hydro, and soft. Crack was already gone. We know crack was done already. And, pushing pies, And that was like 100,000 for the month of October. And this didn't involve there was no Shylock money, no sports betting, no extortion, nothing. That was just straight drugs. And I decided to come over now and start working in the office, which we were speaking about earlier, writing bets. So I'm like, all right, we're going to change. He's like, my boy calls me over. He's like, listen, stop that drug game. He goes, the only way I know you're going to stop is if you see that you can make this over here. So I'm like, all right. Come November, I'm there 3 weeks. I make $2,800 and I get pinched. That's where I knew the street game and the Cosa Nostra should have never went hand in hand in my life. And eventually you're going to get caught no matter what. You're going to go to jail. If you don't, you either got a horseshoe stuck up your ass or you're working. So I might have got a little bit of a longer run in the streets with the drug game, and then maybe
Right.
I would have got pinched on a state charge. But now coming
Right.
over, it's going to become a federal charge, and you got more eyes on you. So then after that day, and that whole case got wrapped up, I wound up pleading out to a 6-5. I went right back into drugs. No matter what I was told, I couldn't do. The drug game was on from there on in.
Jeez. So, how long were you involved with the Gambinos?
I gotta say, I was really around them most of my life. Like there was like back then, it wasn't like today. They straighten everybody out today. I remember when the
Hmm.
neighborhood guy got straightened out. Our guy, who was supposed to be our guy. Like if you had a beef or you had a problem, that's who you went to. That's how it was
Right.
supposed to be. This was like back in 1989. And when he got straightened
Right.
out, it was like becoming the president of the United States. Like the whole world, being a May guy was like huge. And not everybody got it, And if you got that
Right.
status, it was like your whole neighborhood was covered. Where now
Right.
I was in a crew with 2 May guys and a skipper in my crew, which is like unheard
Hmm.
of. You know what I mean? So, and I remember that going back as far as 89, being around the Gambinos. When I was younger and I was pushing fireworks and football tickets, I was around a Banana captain. But
Okay.
it really, when you're that young, you're not officially on record with anybody. You're just a neighborhood kid doing things. But
Right.
officially, probably under the Gambino umbrella since I'm like 13. And I
Okay.
started writing bets for the Gambinos without even knowing when I went back at 15 and started working at a Nicky Carrazzo place. I didn't even know it was Nicky's. And these guys wanted to give me a chance. They were older guys who I wound up hooking up with. And they're kind of the ones that guided me in the life of standing up,
Okay.
fighting in the streets, taking care of your neighborhood, don't sell drugs where where you rest, kind of like that. They were kind of like mentoring me. So
Right.
I probably was around them, like I said, most of my life without even realizing it.
Hmm. That's so another
And then it
question,
was
And Brad.
official when I was like 18.
Mm. Question from Brad Schwartz, and shout outs to him. I came up with him. He's a great dude. He said, "Did you personally meet Gotti or the snitch? I mean, the bull."
The bull never came to Ozone Park or Howard Beach. Never seen him there. You talk about Gotti Senior, Gotti Junior, or any of them. Which ones are you referring to? Because I knew the
Probably,
whole Gotti family personally.
probably Junior, but just because
Yeah.
Senior's
Junior, I would
older.
see all the time. He had a younger brother that
Okay.
was my age, that we were very
Right.
close. We were the ones that actually squashed the beef between where I grew up in 88 Park and Howard Beach at the time. We, like,
Um,
Ozone Park and Howard Beach didn't mix. There
what
was
was the
always
beef
beef.
about?
It went back even before our generations, even guys
Okay.
before us. Ozone Park and Howard Beach just never mixed because they were the nephews, the cousins, and the sons, and we were the kids in the streets that were around the uncles, the fathers, and the cousins. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
like we were in Ozone Park and we were around their social clubs, their spots, their gambling dens, their bars, where they hung out, where they hung their hat. They went home to Howard Beach, and that's where, all of them kids came from. And there was a kind of like jealousy. You know what I mean? They were all spoiled and their fathers were somebody. And we were all Italian kids in the street that were getting it in, and we were around their fathers and uncles and brothers.
Right.
So that's
So
how it went.
I want to give a little backstory real quick. So a couple weeks back, I had Gene Borello on the show, and we got to talking, and we were done, and it was the next day, and I'm going through his clips and whatnot, and then he hit me. He was like, "Yo, I got a guest for you," and then I had just watched the John and Gene episode with you on it. So, can you talk about how you met those two gentlemen?
Listen, I really don't talk on what people do. Like I said to you before,
Facts,
I don't
facts.
want to
Yeah,
speak on
yeah,
it. You
yeah,
know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah,
But
yeah. I got you. I got you.
John's a little bit older than me, so I kind of was young when his era, and
Mm-hmm.
John was the real deal in my neighborhood. That I know for a
Right.
fact. I can validate it. People can say whatever they want about him today. No one would have
Mm-hmm.
ever said it to him in the streets. I don't care if you were a maid guy, a skipper, a boss. The guy was for real.
Right.
He was getting down. He was putting work in. I know personally he gets down like that, and I'm pretty sure everything
Yeah.
else, whatever he, pleads, whatever he wrote in his books, are true as well. Because he was never
Right.
known to be that guy in the street. And the one thing
Mm-hmm.
about John was we weren't friends, but we weren't enemies in the street. Because like I
Right.
said, when he came up, I was a kid. But then when I started making moves, I was in his game because he went after
Mm-hmm.
drug dealers. He stuck up drug dealers, and especially guys that were around guys that you're not supposed to be selling drugs. And he didn't
Right.
pick on the weak. That's one thing. I can vouch for that. He wasn't a bully. If you were strong and
Right.
you thought you were strong, he challenged you, took what you had, and what were you going to do about it? You know what I mean? He was a good fighter, and he put that work in. So I got to give him his
Yeah.
respect for that. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, we weren't friends in the street. He was older than me. I'm sure if our paths crossed, we had to sit down one time in Atlantic City. I didn't feel no tension between us. But when you got a guy like that puts his own work in, that doesn't
Right.
order it, that goes and does his own shit, you always got to be worried about a guy like that because he could pop off at any minute. You know what I mean? But we didn't have that. You know what I mean? So we were good. But I always had that in my back of my head. This guy might come grab me one day for 10 keys. This guy might come grab me for what I got. You always got that because that's who he was. You know what I mean?
Right.
And now
All
the
right.
park I'm talking about, 88 Park, was Fat Andy's park. Way
Okay.
before my time. Now, Fat Andy was the original boss. Anthony Ruggiano Sr. was the original boss of that neighborhood. And he's the guy that brought up the Carrazos, the Ronnie One-Arms. All those guys were around him. And
Okay.
Gotti Sr. and them were from the Fulton Avenue boys. I don't know if you know the whole backstory on that. So that was two different sides. They were with a guy
Right.
called Charlie Wagons and Nicky and Joe and all those guys, the Carrazos, and those guys were with Fat Andy. So it was like two different sides, but they had a mutual respect for each other because they were with the same family. So at the
Right.
time, Fat Andy was a little older. He was, running the neighborhood at the time. And Gene is his bloodline. So Gene lived around the
Okay.
park. So he was a little bit
Right.
younger than me, but he was this little one, always fighting in the streets, getting in trouble, causing havoc. So I knew him like that from the area. And of course, I knew his
Right.
family. So that's how. And then I would see him in the streets and I'd run into him. Oh, I stabbed this one, or I baseball bat. As a young kid, I mean, that's what was going on,
Right.
And then he knew
Right.
me. I mean, if you knew me, like I said, people could write in. They could say I'm this. They could say I'm that. But no one's ever going to say he wasn't a drug dealer. He wasn't in the streets. He wasn't putting his work in. They can't say anything like that. So he knew.
Talk to
And he knew
talk
he
to
was
him, Hootie.
close with me. Yeah. So it's like he knew what I did and came to me and wanted to get in the drug game.
Right.
And I'm in the streets, you know what I mean? And I know he's in the streets. If a kid comes to me that's going to college and he's a good kid and comes from a good family, and Gene was a good kid, but I mean like a good kid not getting in trouble, I'm not going
Right.
to put him on. So I said, all right, he's a little wild, all over the place. Let's see if, he wants to sell drugs. So a couple ounces of weed here, putting him on like that. And he was the type of kid that would give a guy 7 grams. The guy wouldn't pay him
Right.
in 24 hours. He's going to stab him at 16 years old. You know what I mean? He was real. That's like, I can
Yeah.
vouch for what he done because I know what he was doing. So when I
Right.
seen that, I told him, this ain't for you. Like, your life is that. You're going to be in the streets. You're going to be strong arming, doing stick ups. You're going to
Mm-hmm.
play with that thing. He was one of them guys that was just running around with that thing in broad daylight and didn't care. When he was really putting his work in, I was away. I was doing a bid in the state. Then I came home. He was on parole. I was on parole. We had the same parole office. And then
Mm-hmm.
I wound up doing the Fed bid, and he was the only action in town. There was nobody left. When they took 127 of us off the street, his crew was the only crew left in that neighborhood. And he was wild. And if you're wild in 2011 to 2020, you're getting noticed the first week you're in the streets because no one's doing what he was
Right.
doing. I was getting
Right.
kites. I was getting messages. This guy's shooting this one, stabbing it. I'm like, holy shit. Like, this guy's wilding out, and they're the only crew out there. So
Right.
he was official. He was official from when he was a kid. He was a wild little kid.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't going to be anything else that he wasn't going to do. And I can vouch for that. And that's why people can say whatever they want about him. That's my man. I got his
Absolutely.
back. That's my
But we
boy.
know I'm not gonna stay on. We don't talk about other people when they're not in our general
Nah,
area.
that's
You know what I
right.
mean? That's not something we do.
That's classless.
Um,
It's classless.
yeah, absolutely. So let's take it back for a second. And you had ran something by me, and I wanted to ask you a question on it. Well, hold on, I got one more question from Brad. He said one more question. Sorry, Michael Franchise was the highest earner in the mafia. Did you interact with other families like that, or was that only within the family?
You see, they only hear stories. And now I don't want to talk
Right.
about Michael Francis because I ain't got
Again,
nothing with the guy. You know what I'm saying?
again.
But the numbers are exaggerated because I knew people that were around then. I knew people that were in the business. I knew people that were in that life. But you also have to understand the guys you don't know about that were
Hmm.
earning more than that because those guys are either doing life or they're sitting on all their money, which I don't want to mention guys like Joe Watts, Danny Marino. There's guys out there, you know, that just made tons of money. You're not going to hear about it because these guys are doing 12 years, 9 years. They've been in the life their whole life, you know, and all
Yeah.
guys around Paul anyway. Big Paul had nothing but big money earners around him, you know. That's why they always talked about him being like the Wall Street type or whatever they used to say about him. Like I said, I can't talk about that era, but I do know there was guys out there that were making more money than him. And he wasn't making the money. He was turning it in. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? There was another guy's earn that brought it to him, and he
And
says
he
he
was
brought it
handing
to
it
him.
off.
Listen, I don't, yeah, whatever it is. And he said he was only
Listen.
handing it off to one family. All four, there was, at the time, the Bananos were out of the commission because everything that happened with Joe Colombo and him, Joe Bonanno writing books, 60 Minutes, you know, the Donnie Brasco thing, like they were in disarray. So
Hmm.
the other four families were getting a piece of that money. You just can't earn like that. And who knows if there's 300 gas stations, whatever, how many gas stations he had, they fell in other families' territories. So there's got to be money kicked up to other families. Now I'm not saying who got the majority of it because he was working for a psychopath. Like them Colombo guys weren't playing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Those guys didn't. Those guys didn't even care about warring with anybody else. They were warring with each other.
Mm.
So
So
that's a whole nother thing that I really don't want to speak on
again, we
because
not like
I don't.
listen. The conversation is spin with Spitter and
Yeah.
Hootie right now, and we're not going to do
Right.
the
Yeah.
he says she says shit. I'm not
Yeah.
about that in my
But
real life. I'm not going to be about that in this
numbers
life.
are exaggerated. I'm gonna tell you, there's
So
people out
my
there earning big money. Big
right
money.
facts. So back to the question that I had for you, and it's something that you had mentioned earlier. What's the difference between getting straightened out back then and the reason why they straighten out so many people right now?
Back then, it was an honor thing. Now it's a money thing. You had your earners, right? But they
Right.
would make guys. They would make guys. Like there's not even movies out that you could compare the life to. You know what I mean? There is no movie that compares to the life. I don't care if they say they had inside information or they had a cooperating witness that was in the life and told them about it. Even them, they're trying to exaggerate it because they need to make the art more than it is because you want to have people
Right.
come to pay to see your movie. But
Right.
you got made back then. First of all, years ago, you used to actually have to put a piece of work in or be on a piece of work to get straightened out. You
Right.
know, and then the rules changed. When I knew about the life growing up as a kid, being told stories, you had to be 100% Sicilian at the time to be in the
Right.
mafia, which doesn't exist in this country. There's no such thing as a mafia. You could call it the mob. You could call it Cosa Nostra. They call it the Bagada, the life. There's no mafia. The mafia, once they left Sicily, was over. Now, Napolitan's the Camorra. You can't. How can you call that? They're the Camorra. You can't straighten out a Napolitan guy and say he's part of the mafia. It doesn't work like that. Then a guy's got his father's last name, but his mother's a Russian Jew, and he can be straightened out. They straighten out a guy who's half Irish. They straighten out a guy who's 75% Irish. You know, and that's a spit in the face to guys like Johnny A. Light, guys like Joe Watts. There's a lot of guys that
Mm-hmm.
should have been bosses. Nevertheless, forget to be straightened out. And then you got these
Right.
guys that are 75% Irish, 50% Russian Jew getting straightened out. It's a lot different. But there's rules now too. You know, I just heard some watered down rules that, you know, there's no more killings. You can't kill nobody anymore. Like they don't want, like, and the one rule I remember forever was
Right.
no one ever got killed over money. More people died over disrespect than over money years ago. And they would make guys and send guys, made guys to protect their money guys. They wouldn't straighten their money guys out. The bookmakers, the Shylocks, they were the money earners. But they would be protected. They wouldn't be straightened out.
Right.
Now they get straightened out. So it's so different. And the rules change every day.
Is there any more honor in the life?
Amongst certain crews, absolutely. But that's like, you don't know about it. And maybe
Right.
a crew inside a crew or a few guys inside a family that got loyalty, that'll go for theirs, that will do, time like this. I guess the big pinch that came down with Stevie Wonder and all those guys in the Lucchese family, those old three guys stood up for each other. You know what I mean?
Right.
And, there's certain people out there that do that. You know what I mean? And they grow up together. And I thought I'd be the same way. I thought I'd be in and out of jail for the rest of my life, standing next to these guys. And then you end up in a box with a guy for 3 weeks, and he's having seizures, he's passing out, he's throwing up, and the guy's a skipper. And I'm like, holy shit, this guy's in 3 weeks he can't even handle. You know what I mean? It's like, what happened to this thing? It's like I came home, and I'd go to guys and tell them, made guys, listen, get out of the life, because you are not going to survive jail. I seen the way your guys are acting. You've never been to jail before. I see the way you're acting in the street. It's not for you.
Right.
It's not for you. Get out of it. Like I told friends of mine in that life, like, just get out.
Streets ain't for everybody. There ain't no winners.
Saying, just because you're from the hood doesn't make you hood.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's just because you're born in the hood. That's just how the dice were rolled for you. Doesn't mean you hood. Doesn't mean you can do that. You can live that life. There's a lot of squares in the hood faking it. It's just the way it is, man. If you in the streets, you know this.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
There's always that one kid. Listen, there's always that one kid when you're a kid, you're growing up, that ain't built like that, and you're constantly sticking up for him. You're constantly fighting for him. You're constantly helping him earn. You know that guy is not going to survive, but he grew up on your block, or he grew up in your building, or he's next door from you. So you ain't going to let that happen to him. You know what I mean? You're not going to let him become a victim. You know what I'm saying? But he's not built for that. So just because you're from the hood doesn't make you hood.
So I got another question: were you rewarded for jail time from the families, or is that false?
Certain people take that as a badge. I just happen to be with guys, and there's a lot of guys like that. You get pinched, you do 2 years. Oh, he should have did 4. He told right away. Like, there's a lot of guys out there like that, and I just happen to be around guys like that. Oh, his first offer was a 7 after 15. How'd he get a 3 flat? Oh, something's weird there. Or you come home and guys are running from you.
Right.
Scared to death. Like, what are you scared of? What are you scared of? This is what we're supposed to do. We're in this life. You go to jail, you come home. You hit the ground running, you keep doing the same thing. Like, what is this? This is the streets. You're running from guys that just did a bid. For what reason? And the whole time he's fighting the case, or I'm fighting the case, he's a rat. He's no good. He turned. Why? How? You just got that feeling? And there's a lot of people inclination. They're like that. There's a lot of people that, like, look, it's like, come on, everybody that gets pinched is no good. You happen to get a good deal. There's a lot of guys out, a lot of made guys, a lot of skippers that do that. Listen, that whole life, it's fucked up. But you know what? Guys like me, guys like, we chased it. Because now we're there. So it's like, you know what? There's no turning back. We're chasing it. We're going all the way. And then you're not showing loyalty that guys that are supposed to be taking 10s and 15s and 20s, and you're not showing any loyalty by them. They're ignoring you when you get pinched. They don't want no association with you. You got to get in 3 different cars and go through 7 different backyards to talk to. What is this? Like, we're supposed to, side by side, we're supposed to walk through this thing together.
Right.
It's not like that. Listen, some crews might be like that. 90% of them
different now. It's different now.
Yeah.
So, like,
I walked away from it.
You have to, right? Like, what's it worth to you? You know what I mean?
It's not. Because the
You
whole
know,
point is you
like,
do it for loyalty.
mm-hmm.
You don't do it for the money. You're not going to jail for the money. You're not
Right,
taking that bid for the money. You're taking it for the
right,
loyalty. You know what I'm saying? The loyalty I have for you, the friendship I thought we had.
right.
You know,
And that shit's
what do
not
you
there.
need me to do? Do I got to take a little bit extra? That's how it's supposed to be. No more.
So I was doing a little bit of research, and like me and you've been chopping it up for some days now, and so I really
Yeah,
didn't have to research shit, which is dope. You know what I mean? And I
yeah,
appreciate all the conversations we had because like we're close in age, and it's a lot of alikes between me and you. But there was one that stuck out. There was 400 hours of tapes, right? 400 hours of fucking tapes, and you're not on one
yeah.
tape. You're not on one. You're not on one
Not on
tape.
one tape.
But
One tape. What
apparently your
happens is
name.
when they give you
But
discovery. Yeah.
mhm.
Apparently, I was the only one looking at a mandatory minimum of 20 years for career criminal. I was the only one.
Right.
I think maybe out of our crew, there was maybe 30 guys that were looking at that charge, and I had no business on the indictment.
Mm. So
So
why was your
in the
name mentioned so many
discovery,
times?
people just love to talk. I mean, I didn't get to listen to the tapes until I got home, and I
Right.
listened to them, and it was like, holy shit! Like people are really like how women get on the phone and talk. They really these are guys talking to another guy that ain't earning with us, that never earned with us, that don't know us like that. But you think he's a street guy, so you're telling him he's collecting money. He's the guy that your crimes are such bullshit. You need to talk about everybody else's. So now when you get discovery in the feds and you got tapes, they tell you what tapes you're on. They give you the
Mm.
breakdown. So I was supposed to be on 4 tapes. So I'm like, all right, that's so I was like, what do I need to listen to the tapes for? I'm here. I'm indicted. 4 more people are going in against me. Nothing I can do about that.
Right.
So when I finally get home and I listen to the tapes, it wasn't me on any of them. It was another kid. It wasn't me on any of them 4 tapes. But there was a lot of talk about what I did for a living and how I earned and how I didn't kick up and I didn't pay nobody and I did whatever I wanted. You know, like there's no reason to make me high profile like that on tape.
So the guy that originated our podcast that brought us all together, he go by Black Earth, and he just
All
commented,
right.
"Loose lips sink ships."
Yeah, everybody
Of
knows
course
that.
they do.
And
You know what I
then they
mean?
want to call guys that jump off of cases and guys that got to protect themselves because the guys they thought were going to help protect them didn't. Rats and no good. They don't even know. The rats are the guys that are talking about crimes that they didn't commit. The rats are the guys
Yeah.
that are talking about crimes that other people committed. And I don't care if it's being recorded or it's to a boss or to a skipper. You shouldn't be talking about it at all.
Nah.
So if I'm in the streets earning, and this happened to me a ton of times. I got called in so many times because made guys will go into their skipper and saying, this guy's got this bar, he's got this corner, he's selling drugs. That's not a rat. You weren't asked the question. You voluntarily
Right.
walked into this guy's place to tell him my
You just
business. So he can
telling.
send
You
for
just
me
telling for
and
no
ask me what
reason.
I'm doing. Right. There you go. And what? Because you
Telling
took
for no
9 years or
reason.
you took 20 years? You giving up
Right.
people's business for what? One, if it was like it was back in the days, you could get the guy clipped. And 2, you're walking in a place you don't know who's listening and what's listening. And if the guy you're talking to, I mean, bosses and skippers are bad today. So you just gave up everything that I might have been doing in a certain area. And you're
For no
good.
reason.
And other guys are
For
rats.
no reason.
You're good and other guys are rats. You're not a rat, right? This whole situation about being rats and being no good needs to be really broken down and spoken truthfully how it works. I jumped off a
Let's
global
talk
plane.
about it.
That's what I did to begin with. And they called, and I wasn't called, I was called no good. You're no good. Stay away from them. Telling people to stay away from me. Why? Because I didn't want to take extra time for guys that I see crying in their cell. Nah, that ain't going to happen. Show me a stand-up guy that I need to take extra time for, and I'll go right now, hands down, and step in that cell for him.
Exactly.
Other than that, it ain't worth it.
So Benjamin Jackson's commenting now. What are your thoughts on Tekashi 6ix9ine? Who?
I knew a lot of people that knew him that were friendly with him before he did what he did. He protected himself.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, he was a victim. They victimized him. Was it justified what he did? From my standpoint, what they did to him, messing with his baby mama, kidnapping him, snatching. That kid ain't built like that. He shouldn't have been with them to
Nah.
begin with. So I give him the mark for being wrong, for trying to be a blood. You ain't built like that.
Right. No.
You know what I mean? He was a nice little Mexican kid, and he is actually like that. Because my little cousin used to hang out with him on a different level, making videos and stuff. And he told me about the kid's character. He's a nice guy. He's really not like that. He don't talk grimy to people. He ain't built like that. He's not tough like that. So I'm saying you walking around with big homies ordering hits and doing it. So I think from jump, he was wrong. But after what they did to him and they victimized him, he protected himself.
Everybody is not built for that life. And I think that's a prime example. You know what I mean? Like, so here's another question from Black Earth. He was like, what was the hardest betrayal that hit home that you never expected?
Well, it's always dudes trying to hit on your wife while you're away. That's big betrayal. Like close people to you that you would think had your back at home. Not your back in jail, but and then pulling that weasel move, trying to pick up your girl or your wife. Or when you're sitting there and you're looking at a guy that you think has your back and you lace up, you go put your shower sandals away and you go lace up to go get some work put in on another crew, and you're by yourself and you go to his cell and he got his lights off and the door closed and he won't come out. And this is a guy you come up with in the streets with. You know, that's another story that's going to be told one day on a high-ranking member of the Gambino family that left me out there by myself to fight like 20 Spanish dudes in the feds. And the only thing that got me saved by it, him and his bunkie locked in, and I went by myself, and they respected it enough that I was by myself that the guy talked it out with me, and we ended it like that. And that was like one of the biggest betrayals because that would have ends your career. That kite flies through every prison. You got snuffed out. You got played. Your crew didn't stand up for you. You'll be abused your whole, I mean, I would have took my licking, so I wouldn't have been abused like that where I went, but we would have had a bad name through the whole jail. And that was a big betrayal. And then hearing people on tape talk about you.
That's good. And that's the hurt piece for me because, like, listen, I tell these young kids all the time, if you're in the street, somebody's going to tell on you. And it's probably going to be somebody that's close to you. And that's just how the game works. Like,
it's always
like
that.
part of me, like, I don't condone the shit that Tekashi did, but he should have never put himself in that position to get jammed up. You know what I mean?
That's why I say it's two parts. I condone what he did, but I don't agree about him starting. So he started it by getting involved in something he shouldn't have got involved in. If he was about this music life, and I heard he used to shoot videos and shit back, he should have stood with that life.
Right.
There was no reason to jump over here, and that's what caused him to do what he did. So by him doing that, I think from the beginning he was wrong. But then after what they did to him, I don't condone what he did, but you got to understand the man has to protect himself because none of these guys were gonna. And they were supposed to look at, like, you protect the golden ticket. You're supposed to protect the golden child. Those guys weren't
the golden
money.
child.
He was. Let's protect him. If a guy got to go do a pound, if a guy got to go do 10, let him hold that down. This kid's going to get rich.
Go do it.
And he's going to take care of all of us in the hood. Right. So they should have held him down a little bit better. I can't condone things like that because it wasn't like he was putting work in for people and they turned their backs on him. So he did it.
Right.
He was out there fronting and then became a victim. And then you know what? I don't blame anybody for taking care of themselves. I just start from the beginning, but shouldn't have been in the place in the first place.
Exactly. So I got another question from Andrew Rocco. He said, having a business mindset, what industries or professions do you see booming in this post-COVID world? Example, if you were to open a business now, what areas would you go into?
That's a tough one because they're all suffering. I've been all over. It is so hard right now. Like, I was big into, like, if you heard me on the first podcast, opening up a nice bar with like an open mic
Mm-hmm.
night. Like that was kind of my mindset. That business is dead.
Yeah.
Meatpacking district, Chelsea, all the bars, they're closed. You know, small pizzerias, small businesses closed. You know what I mean? If you don't have a booming business and a good reputation, your business is closed. Forget about opening up something new. Right now, everybody needs to just work a job till this whole thing blows over and then find out in what industry is going to start booming, which is paper goods, disinfectant, masks. Like,
Mm.
this is the stuff people should be trying to hustle at home, buying wholesale,
Yeah.
pushing it on. That's the only thing anybody, because I've been everywhere. I've been everywhere.
Right.
I've been in every business. I know people that are in every industry. And the only thing that's
Mm-hmm.
working right now are the unions, constructions, and city workers. To
Right.
get into a business right now with a good mindset for business is a mistake right there. So that's just not a good mindset at all for business then. Because there's nothing in New York State, Florida, North Carolina, the places that I've seen so far. No good. This thing needs to blow
It's
over.
crazy out there, man.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, like, I'm super fortunate for the job that I have, that I can still provide. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, all this podcast stuff is just a bonus. It's just something that I'm passionate about. But my
Right.
9 to 5 is still flourishing. But enough of all that shit. Let's get into the spitting with Spitter while we came here. Let's get enough of the life
All
talk.
right, we're gonna get. What
You
are we
know what I
gonna
mean?
get with now? I've been waiting for you.
What's up?
Where you
What's in your
been?
playlist, big? What's in your playlist, big fella?
Oh, I always got the old school in the playlist. I've been doing old school freestyle this week, but it's been on my
Yeah.
crib. I've been doing Woo. It's been Woo week. It's been Staten Island all week. Yeah, Old Dirt, Woo Gambinos, Ghostface. You know, all of them. The Chef, Raekwon. So I've been doing some little old school, little 90s. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But I've been doing some old school freestyle, some Judy Torres, some Johnny. I've been killing that this week on my own playlist.
I don't know if they're ready for. I don't know if they're ready for that
Yeah,
though.
nah. You know what it was the gyms opened Monday. The gyms opened Monday out by me.
Mm-hmm.
So that was it. DMX came right out. First album. I had that on loop all week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Killing them. Killed them this morning before we got together. I killed DMX 2 albums that whole week. So it was a big DMX week because the gyms were back open. But it's always Brooklyn rap, Jay-Z, Casanova, you know, The Firm, old school Little Kim, killing that. You know, Raekwon, of course. I love Raekwon the Chef. That's my man. Bill Cuban Links is one of the purple tape. You remember that? You had the purple tape?
Yes, I had the cassette. I had the actual purple tape.
That's what I'm saying. The purple tape. Because up north you can only use tapes. They ain't got no iPods or CDs. Like, the purple tape was going for big money up there. Yeah. But, you know, then you got, come on, Eric B and Rakim. I'm killing them all day long. He's, you know, my top 5.
So, Black had asked in hip hop, what verse sticks with you the most? Example, what's your favorite line?
Rihanna T.I. got a song. I'm going to stick it out to the end. You ever hear that song? I forgot the name of it.
I don't.
I'm not a big Ree fan. I'm not a big T.I. fan. But I took an oath that I'm going to stick it out to the end. That's her line.
Right. Okay.
And it's fire. It's fire. That's real right there. She was trying to hold them down. Like, that's Bonnie and Clyde shit. That's like boys are supposed to be doing it. You know what I mean? That's how boys are supposed to be doing it.
Bradley Schwartz said Doughboy is off the chain. I don't know if he exists anymore. I think I retired.
Yeah,
I might have
absolutely.
I might have to send Hootie some of my music when we done.
Tell him, put him up. Play that from the background.
You know, they're not ready for that.
In the background. You were supposed to send it over. I never got any.
You know, here's the thing, right? Like, music's music, and I really don't like promoting myself like that. Like, I'm not a young kid anymore, but like, I'll still bar all these fucking MCs to death. I promise you, Hootie. I promise you, if they want to get into the ring with me,
that?
If you want to get in the ring,
that's going on now, that versus.
I wish they would. I wish they would call me up and we can get busy. I promise you.
And Nas just put the firm back together with Dre.
Yeah.
You can you can send that email out, right? That's what they do today. You send emails.
Yeah, I'm gonna send it to you. I'm gonna send it to you.
All
My
right.
wife said he's so
Listen,
humble.
not for the last 4 minutes.
And not for the, yeah, I'll be quiet, but the last 4 minutes about to be crazy. So who are your top five?
Yeah,
Who are your top
listen, you
five
know me. I'm
MCs?
listen, hip hop on the spot, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Listen,
Yeah,
I know a
I
lot
don't
of
care
people.
who's in this seat. I'm putting them on the spot.
All right, I got to put M at the top, only
Okay.
because the guy has just killed it in his career. That commercial shit, putting Jessica Simpson in the videos, doing all that bullshit. I'm not with all that rap. His
Right.
lyrics, the way he rolls, the syllables, how he puts them together, the whole breakdown of how he rhymes
Mm-hmm.
and don't write.
Mm-hmm.
That's like. Then you got Rock Tam is number 2. He would have been the number 1 spot, but I needed a little bit more out of him coming into the 90s, after Juice and all that crazy shit. But he was,
Right.
to me, and you got to remember one thing about Rakim. He never rapped about his life. Rakim was from the hood. Up there in
Right.
Line Dance, out there. They was from the hood. He never rapped about the drug dealing, the stick-up kids, and he was a 5%er. So you never heard that from him. So for a guy to switch up his style and rap not about Rolexes and Benzes and, Microphone Fiend. Who thinks of the Microphone Fiend in the 80s? Right now, that goes platinum. Microphone Fiend alone goes platinum. That is like
Right.
insane. Just listen to the lyrics, So Rakim, Big, B.I.G. was
Mm-hmm.
that if he would have just got more, them 2 albums, you can't name one song on them that's bad. Remember back in the day, you get a tape,
Right.
you want to write fast forward, rewind just to catch the one good song.
Yeah. There was none of that.
You could do Life After That and Ready to Die and just play both albums without having to skip a song.
Front to back.
Yeah. Jay, front to back. I wish Jada would have got a little bit more because he's one of the greatest lyricists ever, but Nas falls there. Nas is just
Right.
when Nas says you wanted to be on every one last of my hits, and he had nobody featured on his first album, who could do that and not be crowned? That guy is ridiculous. His first album, I'm still listening to this day. Nas
Illmatic.
is king. Illmatic is. There's no feature on it. There's nobody featured on that album. Just him spitting.
No. Absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely. You know what about Big Daddy Kane? He ain't make your list?
Coogee Rap. Then we could go, who yeah. He makes it. But, we got to give this. Who we giving the 6-man award to?
Scarface.
Who we giving the John Starks award to?
Scarface.
Who you think?
No question.
Scarface. We were talking about it before. Got to shout Scarface out. The guy's money. Kendrick Lamar album. Feature him on a Kanye. Him spitting bars on a Kanye beat. Scarface's 6-man award goes to Scarface.
Facts.
I just wish a lot of them had a little bit more longevity. Coogee Rap, Big Daddy Kane, and Rakim. I just wish they could have just came into the 90s a little further. Because hip hop was dying before Mobb Deep and Wu brought it back. There was nothing going on. Def Jam's going bankrupt. DMX drops 2 platinum albums in 11 months.
Mm-hmm. And saved them. And saved Def Jam.
Like the Wu brought all of that back. Yeah, he saved Def Jam single-handedly. Yeah, that's.
Mm-hmm. So before we wrap up the show, I got one last question for you. I know you a sneakerhead on the low, because I peeped game. I know you're a sneakerhead on the low. What you rocking right now?
Yeah, a little bit.
What sneakers are you rocking right now?
On feet, or what am I? What you want to know what my grails are?
I want to know what's on your feet, and I want to know what your grails are.
This weekend.
He's getting the burn this weekend. Mm.
trip wearing yay all weekend. Easy. All weekend.
What's your grails?
So that's what we're doing it. But right now, I just got the off-white 5s. Off-white 5s right now. That's my grail. Yeah, he's getting all the brown into the Nike Air 6s, the originals, the dead stocks. So
They're not ready
yeah,
for
all weekend
that.
on my feet. The 5s and the Carolina 1s. Even though I'm not a 1 guy, but I got to put them. Those are the 2 main. Not
Man, listen.
And I gotta blast them out. Not too hot, not too cold. It seems like it's out there today, but I didn't bring them with me.
Yeah, it's a little warm. But check this out. We wrapping up now. And I just wanted to say from Clockwatch and from Spittin with Spitter, I appreciate you coming on the show. You know what I mean? To the utmost, my guy. You ever need anything, I'm 1 call away. Is there anything you want to ask me before you go?
Yeah, but there's a little chill outside, but I'm inside with the AC on. I had to put the hoodie on.
Can you still hear me? You there, my guy? Man.
Yeah, are you gonna spit something for everybody right now off the dome, or what? You gonna give us something? Or I gotta wait for the email. I did my homework.
Are you there?
Okay. Why, your audio went out?
Okay. No, I'm good. I'm good. You can hear me?
I got you.
You want me to spit something off the dome? Nobody's ever done this. This is not fair. This is not fair, but you can hear me?
Your whole thing. I say, yeah.
All right, check this out.
This is what I'm saying. Yeah, because you was telling me about it, and I did my homework. Yeah, I can hear you.
Are we rolling? You with me?
I got you. I'm waiting.
All right, check this out. Oh, okay. I'm back on the block and I'm back in the booth and they there missing shots. Sidearm when they shoot. I rock for the troops. I ran for the loot. Get it? I rock, I ran. Freedom Union is the crew. Stop acting like you knew. I break on the backs. The beef is so lacking. Jake the Snake, DDT is so tragic. Mason Betha, you Harlem. When I passed them, you thought I wasn't the best. You better ask. Y'all a bunch of poodles. Me, I'm a mastiff. Talk that tough shit, you'll get your ass kicked. Feminine dudes, I sexually harass them. Pause, no homo, marathon lap them. Need some inspiration. I'll Johnny Blaze them, you little stick figure fucks. I'll let you sketch them, then erase them, then I replace them, dig a ditch, end up in the cement basement. I could do this all day, Hootie. I'm just telling you.
I love it. Yo, I like that was fire right there. That was fire. That's what I'm talking about.
Nobody ever puts me on the spot like that, bro. Shout outs to you for that because
all right, listen. I told you was gonna get raw when you got me, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Listen.
Facts.
Shout out to my boy at Gene Boy 666 for putting us together. I appreciate that. I appreciate him.
Absolutely, Gene. I appreciate you, Gene. I appreciate you, Hootie. We're gonna chop it up a little more. Thank you everybody for tuning in for Spittin with Spitter. We got a new show with a great guest coming Wednesday. Shit should be live. For then, tune in to Around the Turnbuckle Saturday nights at 6. Tune into Clockwatch Sundays at 9, Power P. Mondays at 9, Clockwatch. Tuesdays at 9, Spittin with Spitter. Wednesdays at noon. We are taking the fuck over. Hootie, much respect to you. Salute you, my guy. Peace.
All right, Spitter, good.
Be good, brother.
All right.
That playtime is over. I let the games begin. Salute me, soldier. Now I'm the captain. You know I do it win. Ball for ball, you know I'm the champion. I show you that playtime is over. I let the games begin. Salute me, soldier. Now I'm the captain. And all I do is win. Ball for ball.